The alien marketplace was loud, dirty, and full of smells that made humans gag. Traders shouted, deals were made, and cages filled with strange creatures lined the metal walls. One cage sat alone, pushed into a dark corner. Inside was a small alien girl, no older than 17 in human years. Her skin was pale purple, her eyes dull and lifeless. She didn't move much, just sat with her knees pulled to her chest. The others ignored her, called her broken, mute, and useless. One trader even joked, "She's not worth a single bottle." But then came Jace, a human tall and quiet with tired eyes and a military walk. He stopped in front of her cage. Hands in his coat pockets, the trader leaned back, grinning. "Hey human, you want this thing?" "She's trash, can't even talk." Jace looked at the girl closely. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared at the ground like she had no soul left. The man opened the cage and nudged her with a stick. Still, she didn't move. "How much?" Jace asked. The trader laughed. "For her? Give me 2 bottles of anything and that old cart of yours." "The one with one wheel?" Jace said nothing, just nodded slowly. He walked back to his cart, pulled out 2 half-full bottles of alien liquor, and rolled the dented shopping cart forward. The trader howled with laughter. "You're crazier than she is." The cage door was opened. She didn't run, didn't speak, didn't resist, just followed Jace as he walked. Barefoot and silent, people pointed, laughed. Some shook their heads. "Humans are too soft," someone muttered. "She's not even pretty," another said. Jace didn't answer. He brought her to a small shelter outside the city. It was clean, warm, with soft lighting and a heater. He placed a blanket on the floor, set a plate of food on the table. She stood at the door unsure, like a wild animal brought into a strange forest. "You can sit," he said gently. She didn't move, just stared at him with empty eyes. He didn't push her. He sat down himself, ate slowly, leaving enough for her. Later, he placed a second blanket near the heater and left the room. She didn't sleep. She sat near the heat, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wide open all night. Morning came. She watched him cook again, silent as a shadow. He tried to offer her a spoon. She backed away, shaking her head. Days passed like this. He never asked her name, never touched her, never raised his voice. He just kept leaving small gifts, warm socks, fruit, clean towels. Then one night she whispered her first word. It was small, soft, broken. "Why?" Jace looked up from where he was fixing a broken kettle. "Why what?" She looked down, fingers trembling. "Why? Not hurt?" His face softened. "Because you're not something to hurt," he said. "You're someone to protect." She blinked fast. Her lips quivered, but no tears came. Maybe she had forgotten how to cry. Later that week, she finally ate from a bowl. Sitting 2 feet away from him, she still didn't speak much, but her eyes followed everything. Every word, every move, every small kindness. She noticed it all. Even if she didn't know how to respond, she began to clean the corner she slept in, fold her blanket, wash her face, comb her tangled hair using an old brush. Jace saw all this and never said a word. But inside, something in him changed too. This girl, this alien, wasn't trash. She was broken, yes, but not beyond repair. And then, something strange happened one morning. As sunlight touched her shoulder, Jace saw something glowing under her thin shirt. A strange symbol, like a tattoo, but alive, moving slightly under her skin. He didn't mention it, didn't want to scare her, but he took a picture when she was asleep, uploaded it to an alien database. The result made his heart stop. She wasn't worthless, she wasn't trash. She was someone important, maybe even dangerous, but he didn't care, because for the first time in a long time, he felt like saving someone could still mean something. And the girl who had been sold for 2 bottles and a shopping cart had just begun to remember who she truly was. The alien girl still didn't have a name, but the shelter had become less scary, less like a cage, and more like something she had forgotten long ago. A home. She no longer flinched when Jace entered the room. She no longer sat curled in a corner like a forgotten toy. Now she watched him move, listened to his voice, and followed his actions like a quiet shadow. She learned how to turn on the small heater. She learned how to heat water for tea. She even learned how to wash her own clothes, though her fingers shook, and she sometimes spilled more than she cleaned. Jace didn't laugh. He never laughed at her mistakes. He would simply wipe the floor with a towel and nod. "Good try," he'd say softly. "Tomorrow you'll be better." One morning, as she looked into the mirror, she didn't recognize the face staring back. Her skin was cleaner now, Her hair brushed, her eyes, once dull like dead stars, now held a spark small but real. Jace noticed the changes but didn't say much. Instead, he brought a small notebook and a marker. He drew a circle, then pointed to her. "This is you," he said. She looked at it, confused. He then wrote, "Name," and pushed the pen toward her. She stared at the blank page for a long time. Then, with slow fingers, she wrote something strange. A symbol not in human language, but one that pulsed with soft blue light when touched. "What does it mean?" Jace asked. She whispered, "I don't know, but it feels right." The next few days, she wrote more. Symbols, shapes, memories that came like dreams. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her voice was softer, clearer. Not the voice of a slave, but the voice of someone slowly waking from a long nightmare. Jace began calling her Asha. It was not her real name, but it meant hope in one of Earth's old languages. She didn't stop him. She didn't stop smiling either, not a big smile, but enough. Enough to break his heart a little every time he saw it. But the peace didn't last long. One night, Asha was sitting near the heater. She had fallen asleep on the floor. Jace was about to cover her with a blanket. When he saw it again, the strange glowing marks on her back. They shimmered like moving ink under her skin, not tattoos, not scars. Something alive, ancient. Jace took a clear photo, then uploaded it to the hidden network used by Xeno researchers. He expected nothing, but what came back made his stomach twist. Travari royal lineage symbol detected. Status lost, class high risk. Warning. Subject may be targeted by galactic syndicates. He stared at the screen for a long time. She wasn't just any slave, she wasn't even a regular alien. She was part of a royal bloodline that was supposed to be extinct. One that disappeared during the Great Travari Purge almost 10 years ago. Only whispers remained. Rumors of children smuggled away, hidden in cages or dumped in black markets, and now she was here, asleep in his shelter, eating his soup, wearing his shirts, healing slowly under his quiet care. Jace felt a cold wave in his chest. He had to make a choice. Leave her, or protect her and risk everything. He looked at her again. She had curled her fingers around the edge of the blanket. Even in sleep, she held it like a lifeline. He knew then, he couldn't walk away even if it meant danger, even if it meant running for the rest of his life. Because Asha wasn't just someone he saved. She had become someone he couldn't abandon. Next morning, he hid the data crystal, bought a backup generator, and installed shielded walls to block signals. He told no one, answered no calls. And Asha, she began to laugh, a real laugh, awkward, soft but full of wonder. She helped cook, swept the floor, and even fed a stray animal that came near the window. She was learning to walk upright again, not just with her legs, but with her soul in Jace. He was preparing for the day someone came looking for her, because he knew deep down, her past would not stay buried forever, and when it came knocking, he would be ready. It started with a nightmare. Asha woke up screaming, her body drenched in sweat. She was shaking, her breath fast and broken. Jace rushed into the room, finding her curled on the floor. Her eyes were wide, her hands covering her back as if something burned her skin. He didn't touch her. He just knelt nearby and spoke softly. "You're safe here." But Asha kept whispering in her own language. Words Jace couldn't understand. She wasn't speaking basic. She was speaking something ancient. Powerful lost, Jace waited until she calmed down, then handed her a glass of water. She drank it slowly, her hands still trembling. "I saw fire," she whispered, "and chains and faces I knew but couldn't name." Later that morning, while Asha rested, Jace checked the glowing marks on her back again. They weren't random, they formed a pattern now, almost like a map. He copied the image and sent it to an old friend in the underground tech world. Her name was Mara, and she owed him more than a few favors. When the reply came, it wasn't comforting. "Jace, are you insane? Do you know what this is? This isn't just old tech. These are Royal Travari inheritance marks. They're alive, and only the bloodline can activate them. Tell me you didn't scan her through the net." But it was too late. The scan had already gone through, and someone, somewhere, saw it. Jace's comm buzzed again. Another message from Mara. "Run, right now. Bounty hunters are probably already tracking the signal. You've got maybe a day to at most." Jace's hands went cold. He looked at Asha, now sitting quietly by the window. She had found comfort in the little plants he kept there, watching them grow like she was trying to understand life again. He didn't tell her right away. Instead, He began packing supplies, rations, water, a burner ID. He placed a small tracking jammer in his boot and recharged the energy core of their stolen skimmer. That night, Asha came to him holding an old data pad. "I remembered something," she said, "a place. It was filled with crystals and stars in the ceiling." Jace looked up, surprised. "Where was it?" She shook her head. "I don't know. But it felt warm. Like home." Jace nodded slowly. "Then maybe we find it." But before they could go, the alarm tripped. A soft beep 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 from the corner of the room. Not loud, but enough to chill his blood. The perimeter sensors had picked up movement. Fast. Silent, closing in, he pulled Asha close. "We have to move. Now." They ran to the skimmer just as shadows moved between the trees. Laser sights flashed across the walls. Silent red dots scanning for targets. Asha hesitated. I can't." Jace pulled her by the hand. "You can. Just trust me." As they bolted across the clearing, a plasma bolt hissed past Jace's arm. It burned through his sleeve, but he didn't stop. He pushed Asha into the skimmer and slammed the door shut. Inside, the ship lit up, and just before liftoff, Asha placed her palm on the control pad. Suddenly, the ship's old alien tech began to glow in her presence. Soft blue veins of light pulsed under the console, and the engines roared to life stronger than ever before. Jace stared at her. "How did you do that?" She looked at her hands, confused. "I don't know. I just felt like it was mine." The skimmer shot into the sky, dodging plasma fire from below as they escaped into the clouds. Jace realized something important. She wasn't just royal. She was connected to lost technology, maybe even ancient power that hadn't been seen in decades. She wasn't just in danger. She was a key to something big, and now the galaxy knew she was alive, which meant they would never stop hunting her. But Asha didn't seem afraid anymore. She sat calmly beside him, her eyes no longer empty. She looked out the window, watching stars streak by, and then she whispered, "I remember another word. My mother used to say it." Jace leaned in. "What word?" "Kareen. It means light that returns after long darkness," when she said, almost smiling. He didn't understand the alien word, but he understood what she meant. Asha was no longer just surviving. She was waking up, and whoever had tried to erase her past would soon regret it. A sharp ping echoed in the darkness of a distant starport. A figure in black armor looked at the message blinking on his wrist screen. It was short, but enough to make his lips curl into a cruel smile. "Travari Royal Signature detected. Coordinates enclosed. High priority bounty activated." Across the galaxy, silent hunters woke up, their eyes glowing in night vision, their weapons humming with cold power. A girl thought to be dead was alive again. Back on the skimmer, Jace sat by the old navigation panel. They were flying toward the neutral zones. Deep into the outer dust belts, Asha was resting nearby, wrapped in a thermal blanket. But Jace couldn't sleep. His thoughts were loud. He had only wanted to help a girl sold like trash, but now, that same girl might be the last surviving royal of the Travari. And the galaxy doesn't ignore royalty, especially when there's a price on her head. He checked his tracker. The device Mara gave him flashed red. "Signal lock detected. You're being traced." He cursed under his breath. He thought he had blocked the scan from spreading, but someone must have intercepted it. They were coming for Asha. Fast. He turned to her. She was still sleeping, but her face looked more peaceful now. Less fear, more curiosity. Like a lost child finally finding her way back. He didn't want to break that peace, but he had no choice. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Asha, wake up," he whispered. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking under the dim light. "We have to change course," he said. "They found us." Her expression didn't change. She nodded calmly, as if she had been expecting this. "Where do we go?" she asked, sitting up and pulling her hair back. Jace hesitated, then said, "Somewhere no bounty hunter dares follow. The Dust Belt. I know an old mining colony. They call it Bone Nest now." Asha tilted her head. "Why that name?" "Because even the walls have bones in them," he said grimly. She didn't flinch, only replied, "Then let's go." As they adjusted course, Asha walked to the console. When she placed her hand on it, the ship's speed doubled. The engine lights glowed blue instead of green. Jace noticed it again, her strange connection to the ancient tech. "How are you doing that?" Asha looked confused. "I don't know. But it feels like the ship listens to me. Before he could ask more, a warning flashed on the screen. Incoming ship detected, unmarked, not responding to hails. Jace gritted his teeth. "They're here," he muttered. He pulled Asha away from the controls. "Sit down, strap in." "Don't panic," but Asha didn't look scared. Instead, she stood up slowly, walking to the front of the ship. Her back glowed again, those ancient marks shimmering through her shirt. Jace saw her eyes no longer dull, they were sharp now, and glowing faintly blue. "What are you doing?" he asked. She whispered, "I remember. Something my mother taught me." Suddenly the ship's shield burst into life. A dome of blue light surrounded them, just as a missile hit. The impact rocked the skimmer but didn't break the shield. Jace stared in shock. That shield wasn't even connected. Asha turned to him. "I can protect us, but only for a short time," he nodded. "Then I'll fly like hell." The chase began. Bounty hunters in stealth ships closed in. Firing silently, Jace swerved through asteroid fields, diving low and spinning fast. Asha sat behind him, both hands glowing, keeping the shield alive. They took hit after hit, but each time her energy absorbed it, until she finally gasped and fell back. I can't hold it much longer." Jace pushed the engines harder. "I see the colony, just hang on." He crash-landed the skimmer through a wall of rusted metal. The ship scraped across bone-covered rocks before slamming into a steel pillar. Everything went dark. When Jace opened his eyes, his head was bleeding, but he was alive. He crawled over to Asha. She was unconscious but breathing. Outside, footsteps approached. Jace grabbed his blaster and pointed it at the broken door. A figure stepped in, gray armor, scarred face, burning red eyes. "You've got something that belongs to powerful people," the hunter said coldly. Jace stood firm. "She belongs to no one." The hunter smiled. "That's not your choice to make." Suddenly behind him, Asha stood up. Her body glowing fully now. Her voice was loud, not just through her mouth, but inside the hunter's head. "You don't belong here." The ground shook. Old Travari tech embedded in the ruins lit up. The hunter stepped back, his confidence gone. Jace stared at her, stunned. "What are you?" he whispered. She looked at him and for the first time answered clearly, "I'm not sure. But I know I'm not afraid anymore." The skimmer limped through the air, sparks flying from the back engines. Smoke curled through the vents, and warning lights blinked like angry eyes. But it was still flying. Barely, Jace gripped the controls with one hand. The other pressed tightly over a cut on his side. Asha sat beside him, eyes locked on the fading view of Bone Nest Colony behind them. The bounty hunter was gone, run off by the ancient tech she somehow awakened. But others would come. More ships, stronger weapons, bigger threats. They had no time to rest. "You all right?" Jace asked, his voice rough from smoke. Asha nodded, though her face was pale. "I didn't know I could do that," she whispered. Jace glanced at her glowing skin. "Well, whatever it was, it saved us." The dust belt stretched across an entire system, a broken field of planets, moons, rocks, and old wrecked ships that no one dared to explore. There were no laws here, no governments, no safe ports, only smugglers, ghost signals, and ancient dangers buried in the dark. Jace took them deeper, past rusting cargo haulers and asteroid mines from wars long forgotten. It was silent out here, too silent. "Do you know where we're going?" Asha asked gently. Jace nodded. "There's an old friend. Lives on a ship called the Dust Widow. She might help us hide." "How do you know she won't sell us?" Jace gave a tired smile. "Because I saved her life once, and she's too stubborn to forget a debt." 2 hours later, they found the ship. The Dust Widow floated quietly between two shattered moons. Black paint, no lights, no signal beacon to most. It looked like a wreck, but Jace knew better. He sent a coded pulse through the comms. A moment passed. Then a voice crackled back. "Jace Bloody Ward, either you're stupid or desperate." He grinned. "Both. Let me in, Mara." Inside, the ship was a maze of shadows and metal walls. Mara met them in the docking bay. She was tall, with silver hair pulled into braids and glowing tattoos on her arms. She looked at Asha first, frowning. "So this is the royal mess you dragged across the galaxy?" Asha shrank behind Jace, Mara noticed, and softened her tone. "I meant no offense, girl, just you have no idea what your blood is worth to the wrong people." Jace explained everything. What happened at Bone Nest. The bounty, Asha's powers. Mara listened in silence, pacing slowly. When he finished, she rubbed her eyes and said, "You're not just in trouble. You're in legend-level trouble." Later, in a small guest room, Asha sat on the edge of a cot. Jace knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I remembered something when that man pointed his weapon. My mother stood the same way once, in front of me, and someone shot her." Jace's breath caught. "I'm sorry," he said gently. Asha's hand shook. "I couldn't move. I was just a child. I watched it happen. I did nothing." Tears slid down her cheeks, silent, heavy. "I was weak," she whispered. "No," Jace said firmly. "You were a child. And now you're stronger than anyone I've ever met." The next morning, Mara called them to the control room. "I decrypted the bounty files," she said, eyes serious. "It's not just money. Whoever brings her back doesn't just get paid. They get control of whatever Trevari tech she can activate." Asha's eyes widened. "You mean me?" Mara nodded. "You're not just royal, girl. You're a living key. There are vaults, weapons, machines scattered across the galaxy, sealed since the Purge. You're the last code that can open them." Asha stood still, shocked. She had thought herself a burden, a target, a mistake from the past, but now, she realized, she was something powerful. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. "No one ever does," Jace replied. "But now that you know, what will you do with it?" Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the ship. Mara checked the sensors. "Frigates incoming, 2 ships. Unmarked, but too clean to be pirates." Asha looked out the window. "They found me again." Jace stood, blaster already in his hand. "Then we leave again, together." Mara stepped forward. "No, not this time," she said. "My ship's got some fight left in her."
"I'll buy you time."
"You take the escape pod, go to the Iridia moon. There's someone there who can help you." Asha grabbed Mara's hand. "Why are you helping me?" Mara smiled. "Because if you survive, you might just change everything." Jace took Asha's hand and pulled her toward the pod. The ship trembled as blasts hit the hull. As they sealed the hatch, Asha looked back one last time. She saw Mara standing tall, fearless, blaster in hand, and then they launched into the stars, into the unknown, still running, still hunted. But no longer afraid, because Asha knew now. She wasn't just running away from something. She was running toward something greater. The escape pod crashed into the icy plains of Iridia moon. Metal scraped across frozen stone as sparks flew behind. Inside, Asha clutched her seat. Breath frozen in her throat, Jace held on to the controls, his knuckles white with tension. The pod finally stopped with a groan. Smoke hissed from its side. But the door popped open with a soft hiss. Cold wind rushed in, biting and sharp. But they were alive. They had made it outside. The moon was silent. Gray rocks and frost-covered cliffs stretched in every direction. Above them, 2 suns hung low in the sky, one red, one pale blue. Asha stepped onto the ground and looked up. "I remember this place," she whispered. Jace raised an eyebrow. "You've been here before?" "Maybe, when I was very small. It feels familiar." They moved toward the rocky cliffs. Jace followed an old map Mara had uploaded to his pad before launch. "Look for the stone mouth," she had said. "It's not really a mouth, but you'll know it when you see it." It took them nearly 2 hours. Climbing across ice and avoiding deep cracks, finally they found it. A natural rock formation shaped like a wide-open mouth, its teeth jagged icicles. At the base was a sealed metal door, half buried in snow. Asha touched the center of the door. The moment her skin made contact, the metal pulsed blue and slid open like a whisper. No code, no key, just her. Inside was darkness. Not the kind that scared her, but the kind that felt like waiting. They stepped into a large chamber. Round, smooth walls, old machines lining the sides. Strange writing glowed faintly across the ceiling. Asha stared up at them. I can read it," she said slowly. Jace blinked. "You can?" She nodded, tracing one of the symbols with her fingers. "It says, 'Freedom is the right of the forgotten.'" The chamber came to life. Blue light lit the floor in a circle. Asha stood in the center as a soft voice echoed. Feminine. Ancient, not human. Royal code accepted. Final key present. Initiating memory vault. Jace stepped back, hand on his weapon, unsure what was happening, but Asha stood still, and then the light entered her body, not painfully, but like warmth, like a mother's hand touching her child's face after years apart. Images flashed before her eyes, her mother, tall and strong, Holding her, guards whispering, a man betraying them, the fall of their palace, the ships that came with fire, the cage where she had been dumped, sold again, until she forgot who she was, but now, she remembered everything. She opened her eyes, they glowed brighter than ever before, and when she spoke, her voice held strength it never had before. My name is Ashatari Valora, daughter of Queen Yelsa of the Travari. Jace looked at her in stunned silence. He didn't bow. He didn't kneel. He only said, "You're still the same girl I shared soup with." She smiled softly. "Yes, but now I know who I am." The chamber shifted again, revealing a tall pedestal. Atop it rested a small crown, made of energy and crystal. A voice spoke again. "To wear the crown is to awaken the warships, the armies, the blood right. You may reclaim it or choose to walk away." Asha stared at it. So many would fight for this moment. So many would kill for that crown. She reached for it, then stopped. Her hand hovered just inches above it. "I don't want to rule," she whispered. "I don't want armies. I don't want revenge." Jace took a step closer. "You don't have to take it," he said quietly. "You've earned the right to choose." She looked at him, then at her own reflection in the glowing crystal. "I was sold like garbage," she said. "My name was erased, my memory stolen. But I survived. And now, I want a life, not a throne." She stepped back and the crown dimmed. The pedestal sank back into the floor. The lights faded gently, accepting her choice. Not punishing it, the voice returned, soft. "Respectful, the throne will sleep. The warships will remain sealed. But you, Ashatari, are free." She turned to Jace. "I want to leave this place. I want to plant something. Grow food, maybe. Laugh more." Jace smiled for the first time in days. "I know a place. Quiet, simple. It's not a palace, but it has clean water and sunsets." She took his hand. "Then that's all I want." As they stepped out of the vault into the pale sunlight, Asha looked back once, not in fear, but in peace. She had been a slave, a forgotten heir, a hunted prize. But now she was something greater, a person with a choice, and she chose freedom. Months passed. Quietly, peacefully. Asha and Jace now lived on a small farming moon called Alara 3. No warships, no bounty hunters, no glowing marks, just fields, fruit trees, and the slow rhythm of normal life. The galaxy still spun with chaos. Empires fought. Criminals hunted wealth, but here, time moved slower. The stars looked gentle again. Jace built a small cabin near the lake. He fixed broken tools for the locals and taught kids how to make solar lanterns. Asha tended to the greenhouse, grew vegetables, and learned to cook simple earth meals, though she still burnt the rice sometimes. One evening she sat on the porch, her feet bare, a warm drink in her hands. The wind brushed her face as she stared at the sunset. Golden clouds danced with pink light, reflected in her now soft eyes. Jace stepped beside her. "I spoke to Mara," he said. Sitting down, "She made it out?" Asha asked, surprised. He nodded. "She sent a message through a hidden channel. Said she's laying low and proud of you." Asha smiled gently. "I miss her," she said. "She said the bounty's been removed," Jace added. "Turns out the syndicate realized, without you claiming the throne, you're no threat." Asha looked down at her hands. "The galaxy expected me to rule, to lead armies, to reopen vaults of destruction," she sighed. "But I just wanted a place to be human, even if I'm not one." Jace leaned back, arms behind his head. "Well, you fold laundry better than I do. That counts for something." She laughed, truly laughed this time. A soft musical sound that made birds fly from the trees. Once she had been silent like a ghost. Now, her voice brought life to the quiet woods around them. Later that night, a small ship landed outside the cabin, a sleek silver pod with no markings. Asha stepped out with Jace, cautious but calm. The door opened, and from it came 3 Travari elders, gray-skinned, tall, wearing robes with ancient emblems. They bowed deeply before her. "Princess Ashatari Valora," the tallest said. "We have searched long. We bring no weapons, only respect." Asha nodded politely. "I'm not a princess anymore," she said. "I'm just Asha now." The elder hesitated, then stepped forward. "We came not to demand, but to offer. There is a planet where refugees gather, lost Travari with no home, no direction. They need guidance, not a queen, but a voice." Asha's eyes flickered with old pain. "Do they know who I am? They know your name. But they know your story too, he said. They heard how you turned away from power and chose peace. That choice gave them hope. Jace glanced at her, saying nothing. He wouldn't push her either way. The elder continued, "If you wish, we'll leave. But if you come, you can speak. No throne, no crown. Just words from someone who lived truth." That night, Asha stood by the lake. The moonlight made the water shine like glass. She thought of her mother's final words, of cages of fire, of Jace offering her soup without asking for anything back. She had already made her most important choice, freedom. But maybe she could still help others find their own. "I don't want a throne," she whispered to the stars. "But maybe I can be a lantern." She agreed to visit the refugee world, just once. Jace came with her, always a step behind, always present. When she spoke before the first gathering, she didn't talk like royalty. She didn't wear fancy clothes, didn't stand on a stage. She simply sat among them, held their hands, and told her story. That she had been sold for 2 bottles of liquor in a shopping cart. That she had slept on cold floors. That someone, a human, had treated her like a person again. And that kindness was more powerful than any ancient weapon. The people cried and some laughed. And when she left the stage, no one called her queen. They called her sister. Years passed. And Asha never took the throne, but her name spread. Not as a ruler, but as a healer of hearts. She and Jace returned to Alara 3. They built a school for alien orphans, taught farming, storytelling, and how to use broken tech to grow food. The marks on Asha's back faded with time. Or perhaps they simply stopped glowing. But her smile only grew brighter. One night, under a sky full of stars, Jace asked her, "If you could go back and change everything, would you?" Asha shook her head. "No," she said, "because all of that pain led me to this peace." She leaned on his shoulder. The girl once called worthless, now a symbol of light, not because she ruled, but because she refused to. The throne had waited for her. The galaxy had begged her to sit, but she had chosen a dirt path, a small home and a hand to hold, and in doing so, she gave the stars a new kind of ruler, one without a crown, but with something far more powerful, a free heart.